Marhaba, and welcome to the Matrix Green Pill, where real people connect.
Hello, friends. My name is Namita, and you're listening to the Matrix Green Pill podcast. I am very excited about today's episode as we are joined by a very special guest. I have enough jewelry, said no woman ever. Well, in case you're wondering, why am I using this random quote? You need to stay tuned and listen to the entire episode. Yes, we are talking to someone who is as passionate about jewelry designing as a woman is of flaunting her jewelry. Our guest is the founder and designer of House of Beauty, an evolving contemporary brand of unique, handcrafted, ethical fashion jewelry. Priyanka Sarkar. Priyanka, welcome to our show.
Hi, Namita. It's an absolute pleasure to be on board with you guys.
Thank you so much. Priyanka, every piece of jewelry tells a story, and today we are here looking forward to hearing your story about your journey, some interesting incidences that you might want to share with our audience. So let's begin with a bit about yourself. Can you just tell us a bit about your background?
Well, Namita, I come from a lineage of art historians, restoration artists, and academicians in my family who literally spend their entire lives working with design, craftsmen, and art. So, with my maternal roots very firmly placed in the cultural hub of India, I think I've always had a very strong connect with design and sustainability from very early childhood days. So, getting into product design was something that I guess was my part of my biggest wish list. But as the legend says, that the man proposes and God disposes. So, with my eyes set on product, I ended up being a part of the fashion world, both apparel and accessories, where jewelry has always been a point of fascination for me.
Right.
Because I just feel that just like apparel, it's equally very versatile, and unlike apparel, this jewelry is like the exclamation mark on a person's persona. So combining art and conceptual designs into jewelry was one of the most obvious choices for me. And that's how the House of Beauty got formalized. And in terms of my own background, as I said, being someone trained in product and design and worked across some of the biggest corporate markets in GCC, India, and US, I just had to kind of leave that cushion life and get on to my own inner calling. And that's how Biori started exactly 3 years ago.
Amazing. Wow. 3 years already. Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
time flies.
Great. So, what is unique about your business? I mean, I know it's a sustainable jewelry line, but if you can just tell us a bit more about, if we have to say what are the USPs of your business, what would that be?
See, the whole model of Biori is based on the principle of omnipreneurship, which means it's all about giving, earning, and sustaining. So, for starters, everything that we do in the brand, right from the process in which we source the raw materials or the protocols that we maintain in terms of working with our artisans or the processes that we adapt during the whole phase of realizing a design from a sketchboard into a final prototype and then to the product, we are always adhering to the basic fundamental principles of staying ethical, staying sustainable, and staying handcrafted. And with all of that, what gets infused in very beautifully is this whole aspect of a very design-led craftsmanship. So when you look at our pieces, each piece has its own unique story. And we are so attached to the materials that we work with that we do not even alter the shape, texture, or color of the stones that we work with. So the designs have a very nice organic feel to the piece, and that makes it extremely unique because even the second piece of the same pair of earring cannot look like a cookie cut because the stones are natural. And it's also a very natural and an easy way for an onlooker to understand that, okay, this piece has to be handcrafted and it is definitely with something that is natural because they don't look cookie cut and the stones, they don't look like they're all preset like what you get to see with a lot of products that are coming out of machines. Yeah, and because everything is molded and crafted by hand, there's a lot of love, there's a lot of passion, and there's a lot of honesty with which we tend to bring forward, be it our communication, or be it the way we present our pieces, or even the way we think and craft our pieces.
Amazing, interesting. So Priyanka, we also would like to share a few feedback or in terms of your experiences with startup entrepreneurs. So at the beginning of this business, what was your mission when you started this whole setup? What was your dream? What were you looking forward to, or maybe a vision for the next 5 years or whatever? What was it all about? How did it all start?
See, the larger picture always has been when I started the brand was to create an environment where one is able to build an appetite for ethically created jewelry. Because when it comes to efficacy and fair trade, jewelry is not something that instantly comes to people's minds, because it's more attached to fabrics and labor laws and working hours. But through our endeavors, we're trying to make that journey forward towards jewelry as well. And thankfully, now the way the world is shifting, we do have a lot of bigger players who are in the fine jewelry segment, who are also kind of getting into the same trend of picking up, whether it's about picking up fair trade diamonds, or like chemically sourced diamonds, or working with substitute metal which are as good as gold, but not really gold. So I think that kinds of pushes the bar forward and pushes the narrative forward for people like us as well.
Right.
And in terms of the broad vision, yes, was to kind of through our projects and collaborations and our endeavors, the whole idea was to bring design-led craftsmanship into a market which is, I would say, fairly driven by bling and very machine-made bling. Because if I was sitting in Europe and UK, then probably communicating a story like that is still easier, because there you do have a larger pocket of people who have an appetite for design-led intervention. But we are in a market like Middle East, and whether it's including KSA or overall GCC, if you see, where we are very skewed towards everything that is bling.
Absolutely.
So the whole idea of communicating bling but staying understated, because the moment you get onto natural crystals, the same bling gets very different as to what you're probably seeing or used to seeing in a Swarovski, or used to seeing in any of these other Chinese zircons. So to communicate that, staying true and ethical to your roots, and not budging from there, in itself is a challenge.
Right.
So yeah, but yes, being said that, I think the ride has been fantastic. It's not been less than a roller coaster ride, I have to say.
And for everyone, right? I mean, yours also has been,
I'm sure, and with the interesting times that we all have been put into from the beginning of this year. Let's not even get there.
I know, right. Coming to raising funds for the venture, now that's something that I think most of our startup entrepreneurs would like to hear. How did you raise funding for your venture?
See, I think for a creative person, having your own label, having your own calling is like the biggest cake. But what one needs to understand is the right time and the right place to come up with it. Now, why I'm saying that is, it takes a certain amount of time for anyone in any field, whether it's creative or any other field, for you to kind of set the base for yourself in terms of building your own social currency, in getting a little bit of stability in your career front, in terms of understanding the know-how as to how the entire gamut operates in your chosen field. And all of this needs time, Namita, if you ask me. So at one point of time, yes, it's nice to have a dream that you want to open up your entrepreneurship project right away, but it's always nice to wait and watch. And then open up.
Correct.
And the mantra is to know what happens. The success for any, especially any small scale business, the success lies in how good the knowledge base is of the person who's running it. If you are someone who has to depend on 10 other people for every aspect of the business to happen, then with time, you're going to lose more and more focus from what you're actually out to deliver. On the other hand, if you're someone who knows first rate well, then the ride is smoother. So that's one. And secondly, in terms of financials, the planning got to be that, you should have enough means, enough ways to kind of have a kickstart and a sustainability of your business all by yourself for the first 2 to 3 years of its staying as well. Because uh, at that point of time, no angel investor is going to come and make the money forward. I mean, unless and until you have investors back home, be it your partner, be it your family, then it's free. And most importantly, in the initial stage itself, you got to decide whether you want to have a successful business or whether you want to build a successful brand, because the story for both is completely different. You don't build business and brand simultaneously. You build them separately. And no matter how much you would like to disagree, but you pick up the example of any company that's around, be it in fashion, be it otherwise, it's either the brand that gets built first or it's the business, because the priorities are very different for both the aspects.
Great. I mean, that's a completely different take on this. I mean, I'm sure we've never really thought of it from that angle, that there will be two different strategies or different objectives when you are setting up a brand and setting up a business. I mean, that's something I think the entrepreneurs would really probably agree to. Maybe for people like us, it's something new. This angle is completely different. Yeah. So. So just, I mean, you've already spoken about some of the challenges that entrepreneurs, especially expats in this region, would face. But if you would like to add on in terms of maybe licensing or in terms of having a plan
Yeah,
B,
sure, why not?
yeah.
See, one of the biggest challenge, whether I mean, no matter which part of the world you are sitting and trying to build up your identity. See, the biggest challenge comes when you start on at a time where you're very used to having a cushioned, well-paid, well-taken care profile prior to starting your own. Which means that if you are very used to having a team working for you, which would be the case in most of our lives, because if you are trying to start something at a midlife or at an age where you feel you are ready, that could also probably be the age where you're very used to getting work done.
Right.
Now, at that point of time, it is very important that the road to entrepreneurship takes you to a phase where you got to unlearn what you have learned in all these years while you were leading a team, and you got to learn a lot of individual traits. So if you ask me personally, for me, my road to entrepreneurship has also been my journey towards self-discovery. And I'm amazed with the way I end up surprising myself on days, where it's like, okay, not bad. I thought I cannot do this. Like for instance, right now, there's a lot of focus that's been given on developing new categories and coming up with your own full throttle platform. Now here, instead of waiting and depending on what people come forward and tell you, there's a lot of digging and diving that I'm doing at my own end as well. Because for me to be able to face the experts out and get what is needed for the business, I also got to know what is it that I need out from them. So, and this is something that I've never dabbled into, because I'm a very old school creative person who still loves to paint and brush, and for whom the computer is only a medium to express things better. So for someone like me, understanding the entire digital marketing interface has been quite a great ride. But yes, it's also been a great learning curve as well. So that's one thing that I think we as entrepreneurs, and especially the women entrepreneurs, because we wear multiple hats at the same point of time, it's very important that we are ready to unlearn. We are ready to engage and disengage as applicable, and keep moving forward.
Well said. So, of course, I mean, the current times we are in, it's almost impossible to not mention about this pandemic. What was your business mantra during this whole situation, and how did you keep yourself and your employees motivated throughout? I mean, it's not over yet. So, what is it that keeps you going every single day?
That's a very interesting question, Namita, and a very, very critical question indeed, because I think the pandemic, though probably on a personal front, may have been a boon to many in terms of being able to get quality time with one's own self or with one's own family. It's also been quite a crusher when it comes to on the work front, with with people getting laid off or getting a salary cut or companies filing for bankruptcy or stores getting shut. So yes, I think the overall sentiment and the morale around, as we all know, has been quite topsy-turvy on that front. So to answer your question, I think the balancing needed to take place on two aspects parallelly. One was, what was I doing as an individual, or what am I doing as an individual? And the other side is what is it that I could maintain or I needed to maintain as an entrepreneur or as someone who is responsible for an ethical brand. So I would break the question into two parts, if you allow me to, which is answering the personal as well as the professional. So on the personal side, something that that I did with my family was limiting the intake. Now, when I say that, it means completely. It's important that we know what's happening around, but it doesn't mean that you need to be a news digest yourself. So, we would only be probably looking at one set of information or one source of information and keep the discussion limited to just having probably the statistics known to us. We did go a lot in terms of reminding ourselves towards our past. We tried to maintain a routine as much as possible, because when you are at home and when PJs become your work uniform, maintaining a discipline is not easy. So that's something that we ensured, and especially when you are in a house where everyone is on their laptop and everyone is answerable for their respective things. So it became all the more critical for us to kind of maintain a certain sense of balance and discipline. Then we also did a lot of things together, which kind of boosted the morale of each other up, whether it's cooking a meal, whether it's doing a DIY, whether it's watching a film or creating something of your own, karaoke nights, TikToks, just kind of like a nice cluster kind of coming together and having fun. Yeah, we also kind of gave a lot of unexpected surprises to each other and to our friends, because I think there is no one who would not want to have a lovely surprise. And with delivery being the only option, so we kind of made a good use of that. And and took a good take on our daily inventory in terms of how much are we spending out, how much is the resource in, because we consciously did not spend more and buckle up or store more in the house. We did what was necessary. So these are some of the things that we did as a family or as an individual. On the business front, the first thing that we did was, I made the creative process a little informal, which means that earlier I would be having these conversations or these discussions more on a one-on-one, more in a very structured manner, because there was always a possibility of either traveling down or meeting in person. But with COVID and with the whole situation around, the process was involved a lot of covalent communication, which means there was a lot of building up things together, working on it together, altering it, using it, reusing it. And I also kind of went back a little bit and took a little bit of a stock take on what is it that we're already holding and how differently can we look at reusing them, be it the molds that are already ready or be it the stock of materials that's already ready, so that we don't end up canceling, we don't end up overspending, we are able to keep the inventory lean, but at the same time the ball keeps running. And I think that was a great way to also keep the energy levels up of the artisans, because the artisans that we work with, they are small time artisans with no middlemen involved. So the communication process is very direct. And because they are small time, so cutting corners with them is absolutely not fair. And so this way, with this whole process of reassessing, reprioritizing and reevaluating, it kind of became like the core of the foundation during this period. Then a lot of review mechanisms started to come in as teams on virtual grounds, where we would brainstorm as a group rather than brainstorming in seclusion. So they became, when I say they, as in the artisans, they were literally a part of the process of building and not just delivering. because we didn't also want to take up a decision on their behalf and push them forward, where they would come back saying this can't be done because of
Right.
XYZ reasons.
Right.
So that kind of brought the community, as we say internally, a lot more closer, because we were able to hold each other's hands. And we supported a lot of other small businesses around.
Okay.
In fact, we started this thing called as #creativity in quarantine during this period, which got more than 100,000 likes at that point of time, and I, as a brand, had received more than 1,000 entries to be featured on the page. Even the radio had picked us up. We did have a few publications mentioning us. So that was again a good kick, because everyone else also kind of, because it was more like being together in it and pulling each other up and pushing the patent forward. So yeah, that's been a very conscious move. Secondly, in terms of our communication strategies, as you may have seen during that months, that we kept it very empathy led. Not saying that we did not communicate about our product, but you got to understand the taste and the sentiment of the people going around. It's like when people are doing a rain check on their monthly rationing, they would not want to splurge on something like jewelry, which is essentially driven by impulse. So, and that had something that we needed to understand and keep our communications on those levels. So yeah, that kind of worked well for us. We did roll out a few offers during that time in sync with what was happening around. And that also got a very good response. So yeah, I think staying honest and staying real has always worked, and I think should continue to work. It just makes the road a little more cocky. But
so like they say, crisis is not always, you don't really have to always think about it in a very negative way. It brings out a lot of innovation. Some great life lessons to be learned. And
actually, even Bury and Matrix, we met during COVID only. You picked us up at that time. And what a beautiful association. Like, I have had my hands full with praises for all of you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, when I was introducing you, women in jewelry, we really don't have to say more than that. And Matrix is largely most of us working at Matrix are women. So we were really blown away by the designs and also about the concept behind Bury. I think that's very interesting. I think most of our listeners are going to love that as well, the story behind it. So coming back to the whole entrepreneur thing, do you believe there is some sort of a pattern or formula to become a successful entrepreneur?
See, one size fits all approach doesn't work in the field of entrepreneurship. Each of us have our own unique journeys. And the only mantra that I would, which I keep telling myself, and which is something that I would like to share, is that, you don't make a space for yourself by taking someone else's space.
Sure, absolutely. Well said. Yeah.
You make your space by your deeds and actions, and the space gets created by itself.
Correct. Yeah.
It's like, today, if you love one person and you fall out with the person and you fall in love with someone else, and while you are in love with that person, another one comes in. It's like, you are a mom and you may have a firstborn today who will always be your dear one. But then tomorrow, when you get a secondborn, it's the same heart. The size of the heart doesn't change. It just expands.
Sure.
You're able to take in one more.
Sure.
All that the child needed to do was to love you truly, and all that you needed to do was to love the child back truly.
Absolutely.
And the space got created. So the same thing happens in the field of entrepreneurship. It's everything. Everyone's share is written. No matter what you do, things will happen only when they need to happen. You just got to believe in that spirit. You just got to stay honest and believe in yourself, most importantly, because your race is with your own self, Namita. It's not with the world.
Sure, of course.
And to each to its own. My challenges are my own. My story is my own. My jewelry is my own.
Yeah.
And it will convey its own story to its own audience as it moves forward.
Absolutely.
I don't need to snip and snag someone else's platform to get heard or be heard. you know,
well said, yes.
it will find its own space, as I say. So you gotta be patient. And as I said initially, that it's very important to understand in entrepreneurship, what is it that you're trying to do? Are you trying to create a brand, or are you trying to create a business?
Yeah.
Because the fallouts, the challenges, the struggles, and the step forwards are very different for both the aspects.
Sure.
In the initial years, it starts blending in only after, say, your business slash brand has seen at least 5 to 6 years in its chosen market in the right direction. Only then the blending happens. Otherwise, for all you know, the blending never happens.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Great.
So yeah, if you want to ask another question on that front,
I
to know
would
what
like
is the
to,
difference.
because we have been talking so much, and that's what I was coming to, because we have spoken so much about the brand and business, and for us, like I said, I mean, we would have considered it as one thing, same thing, but since now you have spoken about it, I would really like to know. I mean, it would be interesting to know, like, what are the difference, like, when you're saying it's a different thing, both are different. So what is that whole point that differentiates the two, or the challenges that the set while setting up a brand and setting up a business? What would you just like to highlight a few points for us here?
See, okay, so see, it's like when you are on the road to entrepreneurship and you want to make a successful business. Now, what is a successful business? A successful business is where you are able to get your return on investment as per your plan.
Right. Yeah.
Which means everything there is quantifiable.
Yeah.
Everything there is tangible. You've spent an X, you need a Y in return. And there your mantra stays to get that Y in return, whether it is by staying right to left, or going north to south, or staying at the equator. The process doesn't matter, the steps doesn't matter, because your focus is to ensure that the return is coming. Now, when that's the focus, then most of the times what happens, people tend to diversify their steps. And then they tend to take multiple vignettes under their radar to deliver that, which is not wrong, or there is nothing right or wrong in this. It's just that that's your agenda. Your agenda is that I have spent 100,000 and I need to get back, say, 250,000 by the end of 6 months.
Right.
And I am just looking at that. So today, if jewelry is giving me an X percentage of it, great. Tomorrow, let me add clothing, let me add bags, let me add shoes, let me add this. Because if I add more categories, I have more pockets to sell, and more pockets of selling means more pockets of returning the money.
Absolutely.
Which is one approach. The other side is when you are building a brand. Now, what happens when you're building a brand? How does a brand get built up? The brand gets, the first step is to connect with your audience, with your customer on a personal level. Is to focus on building a social currency. Is to focus on earning trust. Is to focus on earning that respect, that consistency. And that comes when the person in front who is looking at you looks at you and feels that you have been consistent in your delivery from the first day to where you are today. And that needs a very different mindset and a very different scheme of work. Like, say, today in jewelry, for instance, every second, third person in Dubai especially could be claiming to have a jewelry brand. Which, for all you know, could be actually a jewelry business, because they are trading, they're sourcing, they're procuring, which is also a way of doing business. But then it's doing a business. It's not creating a brand. Today you walk into Meena Bazaar, every second store is selling so-called artificial jewelry there. Or for that matter, every second store is selling fine jewelry as well. What sets them apart? What sets, say, a Malabar to a Kishan Dast, or Suhani Petit to an outhouse? Where does the differences come in? The differences starts coming in the way the brand is put out, the way your services are, the way your designs are. Product pricing, all of that in today's date has no meaning, because that is very, very relatable. But the differentiator stays in the way you approach, whether it's your design, whether it's your customer, whether it's a certain situation. And then these things are very atypical to a brand. Like today, when I say I'm an ethical brand, for instance, or I thrive on sustainability, on one point of time, if I'm saying that my jewelry is handcrafted, but when it comes to packaging, I'm giving you in glossy plastic bags, or I'm packing them up in some man-made synthetic stuff, do I stay true to the brand? I don't, but does that save my cost? Yes, it does. But then that's the point where I have to figure out and say, do I stay true to the brand or do I focus on building the business?
Yeah, sure. I understand.
So
it's more intangible, like, it's more about the values,
so
more about the
small big things
Yeah.
which kind of keeps working in a larger spectrum, which is where the definition starts happening. Like, for instance, say during COVID, where nobody was buying jewelry, I could have gone ahead and said, oh my God, I can't have my first 6 months with zero rollouts. Let me pick up something else. Let me start selling maybe, handcrafted biscuits or a cake baked at home or whatever XYZ. But yes, it could have given me that money. It would have given me the additional throughput. But would I have been loyal to the brand? I don't think so.
Correct, absolutely. Yeah.
So when you build a brand, you've got to wear that cap that your first 4 years, as we call it in the trade, technically, is got to be your incubation period. Where the first 4 years is where you're actually building the connect of the audience to the brand. And that's all you're doing. Now, in that process, if you are selling and that connect is happening with people coming back to you with a smile, or you being approached with a smile, or people wanting to flaunt your product, you are growing. You're in the right direction. It's only after the first 4 years where you realize that, okay, now it's the time that how do we align? Like for me, I've given 3 years where I was only building the brand, and it's only now that I've gotten the confidence of getting onto the digital platform. And again, there I would have had numerous people from various bigger online giants approaching and saying, give us your jewelry, we're going to take care of it. And I have not had the courage to do that, not because I don't trust their inventory mechanism. It's just that for them, it's just one more SKU to be dumped in the warehouse and taken forward. But for me, these are literally like my own handcrafted babies.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure.
Now, whether someone calls me to be a psycho for that, or when someone says,
see, that is the passion I think entrepreneurs require. Only and that is important. I mean, only then you can.
Like in one line, if I got a sum up between business driving and brand driving, then in business it matters how many pieces you're selling. When you're building a brand, what matters is to whom you are selling.
Wow, well said. Yeah, true.
And for me, to whom am I selling always holds more importance than how many pieces am I selling.
Great.
So that's where I stand. And yes, as I said, that the road is really harsh because of this factor. It's not easy. But yes,
we have to keep going.
We are going on. Let's see how that works out.
Sure. Priyanka, we're coming to a very exciting, interesting segment, which we call it as rapid fire, where I'll be just asking you 5 questions, and it's rapid fire, so you'll have to just give me the answer responses as quick as possible. And after that, we will come to your green pill moment. So let's just first begin with this rapid fire round.
Sure. Let's see how we're doing this.
Okay. So Priyanka, tell us your favorite color.
My favorite color is red.
Okay. Favorite author?
Favorite author is David Goliath.
Okay. Favorite holiday destination?
Hitwan.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Bollywood, Hollywood.
Anything, whatever comes to your mind for.
Comes to my mind for Forrest Gump.
Okay. Last favorite cuisine?
Last favorite cuisine?
I mean, last question. Favorite cuisine?
Oh, favorite cuisine? Hot pot.
Okay, great. Amazing. Thank you. And coming to the last part, which is the most important part of our podcast, is your green pill moment, which means that what was that one moment that was like a turning point in your career?
When you say career, you mean the time when I was working for someone else?
Just before starting your own setup, before becoming starting House of Beauty?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question because definitely that moment of when to do it and when not to do it was at a time where so the brand started after it took me to turn into someone who has a high BP, and it took me to witness and experience a heart attack for 48 hours, not realizing that it's actually a heart attack, to figure out that, okay, enough. I gotta stop working for others, and I gonna invest time on myself, understand the importance of self-care, self-love, and do things that matters to me, rather than just being true to your chair and true to your portfolio.
Sure.
And ringing in the ladder, not realizing that how much you're losing out behind. So it was a very harsh realization, and I think it's something that a lot of career oriented women who are very driven by status and position would connect with.
Sure.
So before getting onto Bury, I was in a very, very well taken care, very well paid, very high adrenaline level of heading the buying for one of these very large retail conglomerates, where I was literally responsible for a buying of more than 40 million USD annually, manning a team of more than 35 odd people, traveling almost 237 days in a year, doing literally like 10 to 15 flights in a month. And from the outside, it all looked amazing, because you are in London one day, you're in Milan the other day, you're in Tokyo the other day. That rush is awesome, and then every weekend sale would be defining your position for the next week. So it was madness, it was mayhem. It is exactly how the fashion world revolves and stays. Just to realize that, and this had been my routine for years. So it was not just like a rise of a phoenix in one day. Sure. And then from there to realize that, it was costing me a lot of question on my personal space, because obviously birthdays, anniversaries, the growing up phase of my child, I was doing all of that on WhatsApps and messages, rather than being a part of it. So somewhere that realization hit in, and then you realize that, when you are capable of doing so much of work, why don't you do that for something that's yours?
Absolutely.
Not saying that the company that you are working is not yours, but the fact is, the company is never yours.
Sure. Yes, that's a fact.
Yeah. And you gotta love your craft. You cannot love the space.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing that I learned with my experience, that I think I fell in love with the craft and the space, which is where I went a little overboard and literally screwing up my health. So and that's where the brand got launched. In fact, the brand got launched right after 10 days of my heart attack, and we had a fantastic launch with a standalone event in the W Hotel with 6 TV channels covering us with every possible publication, and we had the entire ITP team and the Motivate team and everybody kind of covering it. So it was a mammoth show, and I had some fantastic mentors from the industry who came forward to launch the brand, as I call it. And since then it's never been a dull moment, and I love my little ride with my brand in my space with my chosen people, rather than running aimlessly or aiming for the charts. Let's put it that way.
Sure. See, every crisis does bring out
absolutely
a good opportunity. Great. It was lovely talking to you, Priyanka, and I've really enjoyed talking to you.
I hope so.
Show.
Well, as they rightly say, a piece of jewelry is often a piece of art, but it only becomes valuable when emotions are added to it. I could feel Priyanka's passion and emotions for jewelry making in this interview. So while I pondered upon the conversation I had with her, you can sit back and think what you are really passionate about. And if you want to turn your passion into a career, think twice if you want to build a brand or you want to build a business.
If you enjoy our conversations, please like and subscribe. See you next Wednesday.